The lack of coverage of alternative ideas and their complete sellout to the ideas of an increasingly corporate world. I get you could have been anywhere today. You've chosen to do a lot of other things, and instead you've chosen to come here and make your stand. And that's no small thing, so I'd like to thank all of you, each and every one of you for that. I'm Kerry Ann Mendoza. Some of you will know me, some of you won't. I'm the author of the Script Tonight Daily blog. And on my blog every day, I tell people, don't get angry, get involved. And you've all done today, so well done to all of you. So I'm going to talk to you for just about 6 to 8 minutes to answer two questions. One, who runs the BBC? And two, where are the BBC? So firstly, who runs the BBC? So the BBC Trust is ultimately responsible for directing the editorial style and content of everything that comes across the BBC, the news channels, all of the stations, all of the radio channels. Now, the chairman of this trust is none other than Lord Chris Patten. Some of you will know Chris Patten as a Conservative peer. He was also the former governor of Hong Kong. What many of you will be surprised to know is that Chris Patten has 13 other jobs besides being chairman of the BBC Trust. But what? You wait for it. For one of them, he's paid £80,000 a year as an advisor for oil company BP. He's paid, he does, he's working hard, probably earns every penny. He's also paid £40,000 a year by Energy. Now, I think we all need to ask ourselves, if you were to seek an independent opinion on issues like climate change, on sky-high energy prices, on dangerous energy practices like fracking, tar sands, new nuclear and others, would you seriously be going to a paid employee of an energy company that is going to profit from these very dirty practices? And I'm sure the answer would be no if you had half a brain. Now, the Director of News and Current Affairs of the BBC is a former employee of the Murdoch press. He's a man called James Harding. While he was editor of the Times, this is his last job as editor of the Times, he outed the identity of an important police blogger called Nightjacker. And it was discovered that he'd found the blogger's identity by hacking his emails. His lawyers then covered up this fact in the subsequent court case. This is the person in charge of hiring the news reporters and shaping the editorial content of BBC coverage on hacking and privacy. He's also on record as being pro-Israel, so you can attest to that fabulously unbiased coverage of Middle East issues that the BBC provides. And finally, we've got Rafi Berg, the editor of BBC News Online. Now, during the assault, the 8-day assault that Israel perpetrated on the Gaza Strip just a few years ago, in which hundreds of Palestinians were losing their lives, Rafi Berg was emailing BBC journalists to give them guidance on maintaining a pro-Israel stance in their reporting. And Electronic Intifada have provided a wonderful report on that that you can read online. These are the people that are running our BBC. So what is the impact of having these people in charge? The biggest impact we're seeing at the moment is up and down the country. Britain is on fire with protests. People are not taking austerity lying down. Thanks, Bella! People are not taking austerity lying down. There's protests everywhere. And where are the BBC? In 2010, tens of thousands of students hit the streets, demanding the right to an education without incurring massive debts through tuition fees. They faced some of the most violent policing in modern UK history. And where were the BBC? They were broadcasting Prime Minister David Cameron calling this group of committed, passionate, peaceful young people standing for their futures a feral mob. And that attitude of the bulk of the mainstream media meant that the public sentiment slavishly followed, and those students were not supported in their hour of need. We've had enormous public sector strikes on November 30th for the last 3 years. In 2011, 2 million people went on strike. A third of all schools closed. You had physiotherapists, lollipop ladies, doctors, nurses, teachers, all marching in their tens of thousands and their hundreds of thousands in London. Where were the BBC? We've also had, in the last week, we've had the Million Mask March on November 5th. I have to say, props to Anonymous for organising this. This was a global march of solidarity against political and economic corruption in 477 locations across the world. There were marches in every inhabited continent of the planet, all saying the same thing. We call time on a political and economic system which puts profit above people, which puts profit above planet. Where were the BBC? We've had firefighter strikes. The NHS marched. 60,000 people marched. The Tory party conference in Manchester. Where were the BBC?
Where were the BBC? Not representing the licence.
Nowhere to be found. And we're paying our licence fees. In fact, the 19 members of the executive board of the BBC received £5.8 million in pay between them last year. That's the equivalent of over 40,000 licence fees. And this is what we are getting for our money. We need a public broadcaster. We need a public broadcaster with teeth and courage to confront the political and economic reality which is causing pain, misery and destitution up and down this country. And right now we do not have it. We have a BBC which is led, its editorial content shaped by people who have a vested financial and personal interest in maintaining an unjust status quo. And we cannot and will not let this stand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just to thank everybody for coming down today. It's really beautiful to see you all here. And also to let you know that a few more people are going to speak, and then after that happens, we'd really, really appreciate it if people